calls the meeting to order. Madam Clerk?
I'm going live. For life.
Madam Clerk, would you roll call, please?
Alderman Eversmeyer.
Here.
Alderman Frick.
Here.
Alderman Run is absent. Administrator Roth.
Here.
Director Myers.
Here.
Public Works Commissioner Bergerman.
Here.
And myself.
All right, we'll start with new business. Do we have anything under new business?
No new business.
Okay. We'll close that out and we'll go to old business, and let's start with the maintenance facility. Robert, can you give us an update or?
I met with Katie Holt with Navigate a couple weeks ago after our last meeting and discussed some different options we could do in the back of the building, to get the cost way down for what we could, do for storage and another building in the back. So where our we call our upper shed is now, we're looking, there's an area up there that we own that we could grade and put a salt storage building in. And
Hey, Greg.
Hey Jerry, I'm on my way, so I'll be another couple minutes.
Okay. Hurry up.
Probably 10 minutes.
Okay. Bye. He'll be here in about 5-10 minutes. Go on.
And then, so we looked at that, and then, just to do a salt storage, just like a 3-sided with the vinyl top, and then move our cinder pile over there, and then maybe do a lean-to on the back of the existing building. And my thought was, for like a lot of the city hall files and stuff, what we could do in the new building is do like a kind of like a commercial grade style, kind of like a warehouse style shelves, so you could actually put like pallets on it, kind of like they have at like Home Depot or something. So we could take the stuff that's has to keep forever, but nobody ever looks at. We could just wrap them up and maybe stick them up on something like that, to kind of out of sight, out of mind. And plus, if they're up there, vehicle or equipment can't run into them and destroy them. So we're looking at that, and then I finally got a hold of her last week, and she had said that she was told to hold off until after this meeting. So I guess so I'm not sure where we're at with withdrawal, for her to like look into it.
All right. You have anything to add? Or down there?
Not really. I told her, I said I didn't want her getting into, further plans and designs and so forth until we've had a chance to discuss here. I didn't get a lot of information back from her. There's a lot of site there. There's enough room to do what we need to do. And I guess it really kind of depends on how the committee views it, and then ultimately it have to go up to the board to determine next steps. So I guess that's kind of where we're at this point.
All right. I mean, kind of what I was thinking, if we can figure out a way to do it incrementally, what's our highest priority down there? Protection of the equipment, then probably the salt.
Yeah, and that's what we discussed. And she said she had just done another salt storage building similar to that, and the canopy was like 200-something thousand. So, and then the 7-bay building in the back, looking at roughly $500,000. So I think maybe we could do something that fits our short-term goals, for easily under $1 million. And then so I mean, it just kind of depends on what direction he wants to take it. If we want to get back with her, have her kind of run some numbers and do some drawings on that, and then come back to this committee and say, yeah, this is kind of where we're looking at, or if, I guess just need some direction on where we want to go.
I mean, I guess where are we at financially? What is reasonable? I guess it's probably.
Well, that's kind of one reason I told Katie to maybe hold off. Even if we're even 500,000, we'd have to finance. Clearly $1 million, and so it becomes a question then of just how you would go about doing it. There's some room, boy. I mean, it does get a little bit complicated. We have a sewer project coming on that right now the total project budget is around 4 million, and that will obviously require financing. We could certainly include a capital improvement project like this down there within the context of that financing. And, you know, that's kind of what we would recommend preliminarily. How it would actually be the source of funds, you know, the sewer, obviously, then it'd be basically all sewer revenues that would retire that debt. When we talk about construction of the public works facility, we're probably going to have to take from other funds. So I haven't really put that together yet. My opinion is I wouldn't want to move any sooner on any sort of finance deal until we know exactly where we're at with that sewer program. Now, we are getting close. Next Board of Aldermen meeting, frankly, you'll see, I'm negotiating a contract right now with our sewer engineers for the headworks piece. And so I haven't had recent discussion with them, but we honestly hope to be out to bid this summer. I still think that's realistic. Help me out with that one, Robert. Where do you think we're at on the sewer program?
Yeah, I mean, the lift station 2 part of it, it's, I think they're pretty well done with that. It's just the headworks part. I didn't know if we were still having to negotiate, you know, on the engineering part of that. I thought they were doing it, but.
They are, but we need they have been working on it, yes. But I asked them to give me a contract to get it through to the finish line, since we had kind of been working under the old agreement.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you may want to keep in mind, I'm sure you have, the feds just raised interest rates, and I think they plan on 6 increases over the next year, which certainly means that the debt service on any loan will become greater. And that's just something, not that you want to make a decision based on the fact that rates are pretty low right now, but it's just something that as we factor it in, if we decide to do this 6 or 9 months from now, it might be with a much higher debt service than we'd have today. But that's just part of the deal.
Well, I think we kind of got our fingers crossed, so we might get some infrastructure money to help with this too, aren't we? Or, I mean,
yeah, I mean, that's part of what.
unknown, but yeah.
That's part of what we're trying to do. We're trying to position ourselves for state of Missouri. The state of Missouri has ARPA money available for water and wastewater. Now, where that stands exactly, I can't tell you. I think it's still through the legislative process. But we do anticipate some money being available. And so what we're trying to do with our program is to position ourselves for that funding. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Interest rate environment is almost certainly going to change to the negative. You know, it's just kind of an unknown. Until we have the project packaged together, you know, I don't know that we could. This gets more into the legal financial world. I don't know that we could even get financing yet. You know,
There's nothing to.
Sure.
Right.
Greg, we were talking about the maintenance facility.
I figured.
Trying to figure out where we can go. Robert's come up with some downsides from that project, you know, and then we were just talking about the finances, you know, how we're gonna put it together. So I guess what do we need to do on the next step? Do we need to go ahead and figure out, okay, we can afford maybe $1 million in the next step, and then build toward the improvement of that project with a monetary limit, or do you want a project and then you find the funding?
I might defer that to Robert. Robert, what What would be your ideal path forward?
The ideal right now would be have her do like she did before, come up with a plan, get some cost estimates on it, and some drawings, and then I guess maybe bring that back here and see if that's what we're looking at,
Yeah, but do we
that
want to
appeases
give her a
everybody or-
ballpark area of funding?
Yeah, it's a great point. She had asked that question early on. I told her when we started this process, we kind of purposely didn't want to put a budget number on it because we wanted to design to our needs, not so much the actual budget, right? And so now that we've kind of quantified, if we're trying to build a facility that's going to meet a 20-year anticipated, our needs over a longer term period, what's it going to cost? So we know that now, and it's obviously a big number. If we're scaling back, I think it would be helpful, honestly, to give her a budget target. I think that's a good point.
I mean, I'm all for that. When do you think you could have us, a reasonable?
Let's see. A month from now is going to be, obviously April 19th, 20th. I think that's probably doable. I'd have to get with her to be sure, but yeah, I think so. I think that's probably doable. If not, I can get back to you, and let you know if it.
Yeah, let's do
Went to
that. You got anything, you guys, any other ideas?
None that I could think of.
All right.
Me either.
Just trying to, what we're talking about is, coming up with a target amount that we can afford.
Right.
And then get that to the designer.
Yeah.
And then kind of go on through the project from there. And then we'll just do it in steps if that's what we got to do.
Yeah, I think ultimately the committee will review and we'll get a plan that we think the committee is supportive of, and then that would go to the board. All this has been conceptual. If we get into actual construction, then we need to, navigate is just the construction manager. From a procedural standpoint, then next step would be they would assist us in selecting an engineer or an architect, I should say. And, then we'd actually have to get the design under contract and go forward. But
All right. Well, I guess we'll just put a hold on that until you can come back with some more dollars. You don't need a motion from us or anything, do you?
no, I don't think so.
We don't, is it cheaper, are any of those prefab, you guys probably know more about this than I do, like the Quonset type huts? Is that a cheaper alternative, and is that even something that would work?
Yeah, that's something I'm looking at for the salt storage.
Okay.
It'd just be three-sided concrete walls and then like the vinyl, metal and vinyl top. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at for like a salt storage building. And then the upper shed, we're looking at something that's very similar to what we have up there now, just a metal building. Yeah, I mean, before, when we were getting into the multi-million-dollar projects, it was all brick buildings and bathrooms and offices, and, this is just get us through to get our equipment inside and get some extra storage, this is, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
just to make
and
a
it's-
quick comment, if the scope and the scale is more what Robert describes, we still would need a architect and/or an engineer, but I wouldn't want you all to think that we would get into a big, engineering or architect contract. I would want to keep the scope pretty basic. We'd probably be talking about a metal building. That's not that difficult. Some of the interior finishes and whatever we'd have to work through, but I wouldn't envision that to be a big contract or a long process, frankly.
Contract, a concrete floor, electric in it, we want to run electric, for lighting and garage doors. And then we want to put electric each bay, so when we pull the trucks in, because if it's unheated, we'll, just plug the trucks in. And then the biggest thing is going to be just, making it wide enough and tall enough for the shelves that we want to do for extra storage. But then, it's not going to be a huge.
Well, is there a way to, if we get that other middle building and stuff like that, is there a way in the main building, that first building down there, to modify it a little bit?
That's what I was just going to
Or
ask.
for office storage, or not office storage, but for offices?
Yeah, there is.
Sure.
Is
Yeah,
that
you could-
something
you
that's
could take
doable?
Yeah, you could take a bay out or something and.
And
yeah, I
then
mean,
modify it?
Yeah, there's probably ways to do that. It's just,
Okay.
Yeah, that, I was just going to ask that same question, if there's something we could do with the existing building, if you get more bay space up above
yeah.
or on the side there.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, make your office bigger and the locker room bigger and that kind
Well,
of
then,
thing.
one of the things was, you know, when I talked to Katie is, you know, what would be the most economic way to heat a building, the existing building, or just go ahead and heat the new building we're looking at doing? You know, because we could either, you know, so it's something else we need to look at. You know, if we just go ahead and heat the new one, you know, for trucks, or if the existing building we have up on top, you know, go ahead and insulate that one and heat it. So that's kind of something we need to look at too. You know, just which one makes more economic sense.
Alright.
You know, to heat the one as have it just prepped to go ahead and heat that one as we build it, which that's kind of my thought right now. Would probably be better off just, you know, as you're building a new one, just have all the electric ready, you know.
Right. No, that makes
go ahead and
sense.
Insulate it, do that instead of trying to retrofit the existing one with the
Right.
existing electric. So,
Okay. You got anything else to add?
no, I mean, I think that's the best next step would be to,
Yeah,
Just get
getting
back with her.
somewhat of a dollar figure to her, and then, for a couple of, you know, to keep it in a reasonable spot, and then remodeling that, adding some offices to that building and stuff, is, you know, if anything, we might be able to do that under something different, some different money, can't we?
so a question I guess I have would be, are we still looking at trying to get the parks incorporated into this facility too?
Just going to ask that.
Because I know I discussed with Mr. Myers before about maybe trying to get a hold of the lady that owns that, Helping Hearts Building, I guess, or whatever it's called right there.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because it butts up to our property, because that'd be like a perfect structure. It's already built for a park building.
That's not being
But-
used anymore?
I don't know if it
It-
is, but
I haven't seen it been used for
yeah, I mean,
years and
there's
years.
vines
Um,
growing up, and it don't look like it's been used, but
No, it had an old van sitting outside it for a while, but it's gone.
yeah.
Past attempts to contact that property owner have failed because she was not, she wasn't cooperative. It's a good way to say it. So I don't know what the plan is there for her for that building, but I can certainly reach out to again and try. But I didn't know if you all were considering the future of the Parks Department in this plan at this stage, or if we need to
I
Find
mean,
an
is that
alternate.
something that you would think would be helpful for that area down there? I mean,
Well, I mean, the thing is it adjoins our property that we already own. It's already built, which is a plus because it's cheaper to buy something than it is probably gonna build something from the ground up. And, you know, to me, it looks like it'd be suited perfect. There's a big garage door in the back. you
It's
know,
elevated, they can't drive in and out of it.
Yeah.
It's got like a 2-foot drop
On the,
for
oh,
for
the
a
top.
loading ramp,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which, oh, well, that could be filled in, I guess, but.
Or put a new door in.
Yeah, but it just, you know, it's a good location because it's right next to ours, you know, and then if, you know, we could open it up between the two and combine the yards, you know, per se, and then, you know, so if we got in this new building we're building, you know, a couple bays for him to put his stuff in, and we could have his office and bay up there. It just kind of seemed like a good fit to me. That's why I said something to Steve about it. It's like, well, maybe check in with her and see if they'd be willing to sell that building since they're not, you know, using it anymore. It'd be a good park building.
Would it be something you could lease from her as opposed to buying it?
Yeah, it's a possibility too, I guess.
I just wonder why someone would sit on a non-productive asset.
Yeah.
well, it's a nonprofit organization, so it might be tied to something else.
Yeah,
That
so-
they can't do anything without the building being there.
Yeah, that could be. Is it possible you could reach out and just find out?
Sure.
And I like both options. I mean, maybe not, I mean, maybe if she's not willing to sell it, maybe there'd be a willingness to lease it.
Yeah. Let's look into that.
Okay.
So that part of it, and then work on a financial thing that we can get to navigate, and then, I guess we'll go from there.
Sure, yes, yep.
Okay? Got anything else to add on the maintenance facility?
No.
Nothing? Nothing? All right. All right, so we'll close that and move to our next topic, which is record storage.
I can start, and then Kim's been doing some of the research. We all know there's a need for storage. It's been discussed here by the committee on a few different occasions. After the last meeting, I asked Kim to look into it more closely. And, one option would be to, as Robert discussed, add storage within either the existing buildings or the new buildings. In a interim, in a kind of a more of immediate need basis, Kim did most of the work, but she looked at containers and other options. So, can you bring us up to speed on that, Kim?
So, and Robert's option, including it in the shelves, I'm perfectly fine with too, if that can be included in the scope or however you want to do it. The only thing I looked at was just getting prices on a couple little sheds. And they all include or don't include different things, but, they range from $300 to $5,500 depending on the size. Then if we went that route, we could just set the building down there, wherever Robert thinks would be a good fit, and then it would just all be contained in there. A lot of the stuff that's down there will need to be kept. Some of the stuff I can get rid of, but we're still always going to have that struggle of what do you do with the stuff you have to keep forever, which is mainly the stuff that would go on Robert's shelves that he's talking about. As far as an immediate need, I don't know how fast we need to
Well,
take action on any of it, but.
there's an immediate need down there because we're taking up a stall right now, correct?
But I mean, it's not killing us. I mean, it's not really, it can stay there until we, if it's another year, I mean, it's already been up there
Okay.
as long as it is. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to argue, and I appreciate that, because Robert's right, generally speaking. However, I would like to deal with it. I really would. I think it'd be helpful to get that stuff out of there and packed up, stored in a more permanent fashion, because a lot of it is permanent stuff,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yes, the stuff that we need to keep is more permanent. There's also a lot of court files down there, which have to be kept for so long before the judges sign off on them. And so that problem's not gonna go away.
My concern for the storage up on the racks is accessibility for Kim or anybody that needed to find something. They would then be at the mercy of somebody bringing it down. If you had a little building,
They're at a mercy of us unlocking the building and stuff anyway.
they are now.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, we got a couple of different things that we could use with forks to get it out. I mean, we got a case.
I don't know, but I'd personally rather get that out of your way and,
I think a better option instead of like a wood building would probably be like what the police bought, old, like one of the old rail, storage containers, the steel storage containers, something like that. 'Cause that's something you can move around. It's gonna be a little better than I think a wood storage, because then with that, when we don't need it anymore, you could sell it. It might be a little tougher to get rid of one of these, wood structure with the, I mean, for something temporary.
Are those metal buildings that Kim looked into and/or the storage containers, are those weatherproof enough and rodent-proof enough and
Yeah, those.
everything?
Yeah,
Because,
those metal storage units, they're keeping evidence in that one right now, so.
Where's that? Is that down in your facility down there too?
It's kind of up there in the back corner, yeah. It's those old railroad cars.
Yeah, no, the
Yeah.
quad container.
Yeah, so that would, because those are a lot easier. You just level off, put some gravel down, stick it on the ground, and then you put your stuff in there, and then whenever we got a more permanent place, then we could take it back out, put it there, and then you could keep it, use it for something else, or you could sell it. You know, a wood building is gonna depreciate a lot more, because it's just got a shingle roof, and you gotta, just my eyes, it'd be more sense to get a steel container.
The only drawback is that, of course, the board somewhat recently essentially has prohibited those in certain zoning districts. And so we were a little wary of getting a new container given that situation. Yes, it's true, there is one there now. We had some evidence that we had to store, and it's pretty substantial. And so we use that container for that purpose. I mean, this
But
is kind
can't
of,
we use those on commercial property or on our city property, or is that?
yeah, and we can. I mean, yes, to answer your question, we could do that. I think the zoning code provision related to C districts as well as R districts. Now, you know, I don't know exactly how it's zoned, but we're using it for essentially institutional type uses. So I don't think there's a direct conflict, but it just was a thought that Kim and I had when we talked about those containers. Did you look much further into it, Kim, from even a cost standpoint?
For the storage containers?
Yes.
Yeah, the storage containers that I looked at, you know, depending on if you're getting new or used, which depends on really on just on how it looks, but I mean, they're a couple $1,000s, and they seem, you know, weather tight and such.
I know you can rent them too, like
Yeah.
$100 a month or something, but to me, I think it makes more sense to buy it, and then you have something there you could resell, you know, when you're done with it, or use it somewhere else, or this, the wood structures like that, you gotta, you know, once you move them and stuff, and, you know, I don't know, it's just, they're rodents and stuff, they're not gonna be animal tight as good as a steel container is, that's for sure.
The steel container would be, you know, the accessibility, I guess the functionality of it might be a little less than one of these sheds, if you want to call it that. You know, if you want to put stuff away and forget about it, it'd be a good option. I think if you're going to access it more regularly, it might not be. I mean, I don't think there's a big difference between the two, but just a little bit of discussion that we had.
Well, I think we need to move forward on something, whether it be a shipping container or, you know, those temporary sheds that you were talking about. I'd like to get out, you know, get the stuff out of the bay, get the stuff out of this building that doesn't need to be, you know. I assume that metal container, that's primarily for the police department, correct? And that's,
Yeah,
it's also secured.
It is completely secured, and it is it's evidence, so we can't. I mean, it's kind of off limits, so to speak.
Right, yeah, and I understand that.
And probably the way I'm thinking about the buildings that she's looked at, the storage container is probably way more secure than one of those lighter weight buildings. And I don't know what, with confidentiality laws the way they are, how much this stuff has to be secured, these old records, but I would imagine that they should be fairly secure. And probably one of these other buildings is, you know, with the lightweight sliding doors, if they're what I think they are, like the ones you see in front of Home
Yeah,
Depot.
they're shipping containers.
No, the shipping containers, I think, would be a lot more secure than one of those buildings. Because my dealings with those is you need a torch to get in one of those.
Guess another thought would be, I mean, what we did in years past, they had storage units, and we have plenty of storage facilities here in town now. We could always put it rental storage, but then you're paying rent on something, but, you know, maybe they could work out a deal since we're the city, maybe they'll give it to us a little cheaper or something.
Butch, you got any ideas?
You know, I think the container, I mean, obviously, there's some optics with that, but it sounds like the best approach. You know, if you had some property outside of the city limits that you could put them on, that'd be great. But otherwise, I think it sounds like the best option.
Yeah, I think that's the best option. Maybe, you know, if we get one, make sure we put a nice coat of paint on it so it looks decent.
Well, they come in different sizes. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, they do.
I
There's
mean,
one
we can
down on
get-
Osage Street we might be able to get a hold of real quick. It's been sitting there for years. I've been trying to get rid of it for years.
Oh,
Still sitting there.
when we go that direction, let's get, do we need like a half of one? You know, I don't know what size the police one is down there, so there's quads, there's half, there's full size.
I guess here's what I'd suggest. We'll review it a little more thoroughly, come up with a recommendation, and then we can either bring it back to this committee or just go directly to the board with it. I don't think the cost is gonna be that big, but, you know, from a site standpoint, do we wanna, you know, put a container at this site? I think that'd be a board decision. So we could
Right,
approach
and
it
we
either
may
way.
have to put a screen. you know.
Yeah. I mean,
We may
I
have to
would.
Screen it in.
I know. We got to. We got to. You know, we got to do it in such a way that kind of, you know, works with the rest of the site. But it's kind of up to you if you want us to bring back to the committee kind of a final recommendation, or we could just go directly to the full board.
Any comments?
No, I don't know that it matters.
I don't think it matters.
I don't, personally, I think you can go to the full board. That eliminates
Yeah.
a meeting for a meeting. You know,
Sure.
we already know.
Yeah, because we'll have to
that we
present it to
want
the board
some-
anyway.
We already know that we want something. I mean,
Fine.
so I
Yep.
can bring it up to the board that we're moving forward on storage. And then come up with some prices, you know, go over what the site requires, what our requirements are to the citizens. I know we're getting ready to build those retirement apartments right in that same area, right?
Yes, that project is moving forward. We expect that they're going to, boy, where are we at? It's March now. I know the buyer's in the due diligence phase, so I would expect to have more info in May, June timeframe.
Okay, and that borders, that's gonna border the backside of our property, correct?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, let's look at that and then, let's bring to the board, you know, a solution to the storage thing, get all that under control and, you know, with enough storage that we have room to expand it instead of just filling up with what we're gonna get and then we're back to the same boat a year from now. You know, so I think it needs to be big enough to accommodate the future too, so,
Very good.
all right.
Yep.
Anything else?
Well, just going back on that, once we, on something like that, if we kept it, you know, there's other things we could always put in it too. I mean, concrete forms and stuff like that, I mean, so, I mean,
You know, I totally agree, you know, and if we,
applications, yeah.
you know, you can always move those onto a site where you're, you know, to store stuff in when you're working on a certain area. So, all right, so let's do that.
Does Steve
All right.
want me to get pricing on that, or where do you wanna go from that?
Why don't you, Kim and I get together real quick and then we'll figure out a plan. I think, yeah, I mean, I think if you can just take it and go, that'd be fine, but let's just talk about it a little bit first.
All right, so we'll close the record storage off. And then, anybody got anything under miscellaneous?
No.
You? Robert, anything? All right, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.
Thanks for sending Mr. Schulman that.
Did you see his
Good
reply yesterday?
I did not. I saw it, but I.
He thanked you.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I think we can take